Before I move on to the next part of the ISFP description in the book, I wanted to talk a little bit more about that part about us being the least understood types and character being all but invisible, that sort of thing. I can really relate to, because the thing that has always sort of baffled me is that I've felt like that I was always a pretty open person in terms of, as I was living my life, I never had this interest in hiding myself from people in terms of, I don't know how to put this. I wasn't trying to make an effort to be like secretive and mysterious or anything like that. It's just sort of seemed to happen because my natural instinct was to just sort of live my life without thinking about it too much. And didn't mean I didn't think, but I thought about activities and what I was going to do, next. Basically my focus was on what's the next thing that I've got to do, or what's the next thing I want to do. And I thought about my feelings when it came to other people and events that I experienced, but it was, I guess, very much sort of on a primal level. I don't know if that's the right word, but just my emotions were very instinctual, reactive to what happened in a situation, and I would think about it to the standpoint of, well, this happened and that made me feel bad, but I didn't spend time like examining or analyzing why something made me feel bad, or how I could change my action in order to make a future situation different. As I got older, I obviously started to develop a little bit more of the ability to do that, but for a long time I really didn't. And I felt like throughout my entire life, what I have done is treat each situation I encounter as its own situation and react to what it is I'm presented with. In the Brains and Careers book, Keirsey talks about, or he sort of divides up, again, the temperaments into what he calls their intelligence types or brain types, as being tactical, logistical, strategic, or diplomatic, and then divides that up into what he calls roles of initiator, coworker, contender, and responder. So anyway, the particular combination that my type falls into is the tactical responder, which when I first read that, I'm like, that's just absolute perfect, like even better than the composer or whatever, or the artist or whatever other label people come up with for my type. That to me was the best one I'd ever heard, tactical responder, because I'm like, that's what I've done my entire life, is respond in the moment to whatever was thrown my direction, in terms of, here I am in this spot. However I got to this spot, or whatever spot I'll be in the future, is less important than what am I going to do with this spot now? What do I have at my disposal? What is it that I'm trying to accomplish where I am and what I'm doing? And those are the important things. And because I focus on that, it allows me, more than some people, to respond quickly and spontaneously to whatever it is that comes up, because I don't have to filter it through a long evaluation process of how did I get here or where am I going. It's based on what is it that I need to do now. And I lost my train of thought a little bit, but what I think I was relating that to is that the whole thing about being invisible or misunderstood is, I think that a lot of times growing up and in school, you sort of have these groups that form cliques or whatever you want to call them, and you have a lot of people making assumptions about people and expectations of people of, what are you supposed to do, and everything from your parents to teachers, counselors, other authority figures, but it's also the other students. There's this school environment where there's sort of this society within society at school, where there's expectations placed upon you by everybody. Not everybody as in all people, but in terms of every class of people, in terms of teachers, principals, students, whatever, all the people that were incorporated within a school. And so, because of that, if you act kind of outside of these expectations, then you're always there's going to be some sort of response to that. And sometimes the response can be ignoring you. Because if the way that you act out of expectation is in a way that doesn't get anybody's attention, then it's easy to sort of fade into the background. And for a lot of my childhood, that's exactly what happened to me, is that, kids were expected to, I guess, sort of make efforts to get to know other kids, in some way, and invite people to parties, go to different events, be on sports teams, things like that. Now, I did some of that, but at each one of those things I did, I was always, again, very much focused on the basics of what it is that this situation requires. So if I'm on a sports team, I'm focused on the sport. I'm focused on what do I need to do to get better at what I'm doing to accomplish whatever my current goal is. If I'm on a soccer team and I'm a forward, then my goal is to try to get the ball and to score, or to pass to somebody who is in a position to score. And whether I'm in a game or I'm in practice, that's what I'm focused on, is whatever if it's a practice, the drill that we're doing, the particular element of it. And it doesn't mean that I don't notice other things that are going on, or that I don't talk to teammates or things like that. But my focus is not on these other things. It's not on social networking. It's not on observing a lot of personality elements of other kids or anything like that. It wasn't on any of that stuff. It was on doing what I needed to do to fulfill my role on a team. And that was the same way with other stuff I was involved in, whether it was Cub Scouts or the camping, whatever the activity was. Again, I wasn't walking around with blinders on, like I had no ability to understand anything or relate to anybody. It wasn't that bad, but it's just there was a whole lot of times where it kind of feels like I was absent the day they taught social skills, or whatever it is you want to say, that either because of lack of interest or just the inability to focus on those things, I did become somewhat invisible and misunderstood, because I wasn't somebody who expressed myself well verbally, and even in terms of action, didn't do things that were very good at getting people's attention. So I had no less than 2 or 3 teachers describe me as with words like enigma and paradox and things like that, where they would seem to feel like they had a grasp on me in certain situations, and then I would seem to completely shock them in some way. And not in a way where I was doing something that was attention-grabbing. It was more the opposite. It was like they would think that they found something that would grab my attention, and then I wouldn't respond in the way they were expecting me to. And part of that was intentional, and part of it wasn't. When I knew what was expected out of me from authority figures, then my instinct was to do the opposite. So anytime that was the case, and I was aware of what it is that they were trying to get out of me, then that was the best way to not get it out of me. Whatever it was, I was going to try to defy that, because I didn't want to be somebody who fits a mold or fits expectations. Now, the positive effect of that, I guess, is I sort of had my own identity where I wasn't just doing what everybody else did or what I was supposed to do. But the negative aspect of that was that I missed out on some things because I was stubborn and just refusing to do something because somebody wanted me to. And in some cases, it might have been something that actually turned out to be fun, but I refused to do it because that was more important to me. It was like the principle of the thing. I was always... I think, again, it's a good quality and a bad quality, because the good part of it is that I would stand up for people that I thought were unfairly treated. I would sort of try to right the wrongs. I always had this sense of justice, as my mom called it, where I had principles. I had things where I thought this is right and wrong. But sometimes I would go overboard in that, and it was something where, as a kid, you don't have life experience to sort of show you how to discern how to pick battles and what things are really the important principles to stick to, and what are the things that you really should just kind of let drop, and you're really only hurting yourself if you try to stick to. And so all that I had to learn over time, because as a kid it was like I was just acting on instinct again. There wasn't this long period of examination of my behavior. It was like, this is what feels like the right thing to do. It was very much a feeling. I'm about as effed up as you can be. Very much acting on emotions and feelings all of the time, and as a kid especially, because I hadn't even developed, I guess, what in the function theories would be the secondary function or auxiliary or whatever. So I really was just so feeling based, and in an introverted feeling way. So again, not understood by people who were sort of the societal gatekeepers in the extroverted feeling kind of way. So I did really feel very much alone, and that nobody understood me, but I know now, looking back at it, that obviously some of that was my own doing, in terms of the way I acted didn't allow people to get to know me or understand me. So, I can see that now, but obviously at the time there was no way for me to. So, anyway, that's quite a bit about that. And we'll see you next time.